Not all red dots fit on all handguns, optics ready or not. And not all optics ready handguns accept all red dots. What? Come on! This was supposed to be easy. But don't worry, it should be easy after I explain. A quick reminder that an optics-ready handgun is any handgun that is ready to receive a red dot on the slide without any additional modifications needing to be done to the firearm. At least that's how we're going to describe it here in this video because we feel it's the most practical way of looking at things for yourselves being new gun owners. To break it down even further, we're gonna look at optics-ready handguns in two different types. Ones that use an interchangeable plate system to mount your red dot to the slide, and ones that are custom machined to accept only one or only a very select few types of red dots. Real quick, why are we even having this conversation? Why does it need to be so complicated?
Glad you asked, Chris. You know, there's fast food hamburgers, there's fast food Mexican, there's fast food Chinese, blah, blah, blah.
Well, much like cell phones, laptops, and their stinking charger ports, we have yet to, as an industry, establish one single standard for red dots for three things. The first important thing is the red dot's footprint. Now, if I were to take this pistol red dot here, set it down on top of a piece of paper, and take a pencil to draw around the outline of the optic on the table, that's its footprint. The second one is the red dot's bolt pattern. This is the size, spacing, and orientation of the bolt holes in the body of the red dot that we use to attach it to the slide of our pistol. The last one is the recoil lug pattern. Now, this is the size, spacing, and orientation of these little pegs that we have on the slide where the red dot goes that index into the bottom of the red dot and help keep the red dot secure under the recoil of the slide going backwards and forwards.
That's good to know.
Optics-ready handguns with the interchangeable plate systems are generally gonna be the easiest for you to use because they should come with everything in the box to allow you to mount up just about any red dot that you want. Now, this is gonna be guns like the Smith & Wesson that I picked up in the gun store, which uses their core system. There's the Glock MOS. Springfield has an OSP. Really, a lot of different manufacturers have different names for their interchangeable plate systems, but all accomplish the same task. Now, these guns have a pocket that's machined into the slide, which accepts their various different plates. The plate is the actual thing that has the right footprint, bolt pattern, and recoil lug pattern established for the red dot that you want to mount up. And this is gonna come, like you see here, for my Smith & Wesson, it comes in a bag, also with all the proper screws, again, depending on which red dot you choose. I elected to use the Razor red dot, so by going into the manual that I got with the pistol, I found that that would use the Type 4 plate. Then I put my Razor red dot right on top of that. It's going to index into those recoil lugs that are part of the plate. And then I'm gonna use the screws that they specified to mount everything together, and it works just fine. If I were going to use the Viper red dot over here as a different example, it has a different footprint, bolt pattern, and recoil lug pattern than the Razor, so I'm not going to use the Type 4 plate. I would go once again into the manual to find out which plate is compatible with that red dot. One thing to make sure you're aware of, depending on which optics-ready pistol you buy, they may not have a plate and a set of screws for the red dot you're interested in. You have to check beforehand, so you can hit up that pistol manufacturer's website and you can see what optics their plate system is compatible with. If you're interested in a very specific red dot and it's not compatible with that pistol, then you might have to look elsewhere for either a different red dot or a different handgun that are going to match up properly.
The triangle. We know what hole that goes into, right? That's right, the square hole.
Guns with custom machine slides, or even actually just custom machine slides that you buy separately from a firearm and then swap out onto your gun, are a totally different story. Now, of course, the nice thing about these custom machine slides is if you are an appreciator of all things machinery, then you will appreciate how nice and neat the optic mounts flush to the gun. No plates are needed. It's all precise, all that good stuff.
I like that.
Of course, the one thing you might not appreciate is later on down the line when you decide to buy a different red dot, or red dot technology advances and companies like Vortex start coming out with different things that you'd like to upgrade to, your slide is now permanently machined to accept one or maybe just a very select few types of red dots. And those new ones down the line that you're interested in, they probably won't fit.
I don't like that.
So you're either gonna have to get yet another new slide or maybe a new gun or something like that. I'm not saying getting new guns is the worst thing in the world, but isn't it nice when you can just switch things out willy-nilly whenever you want? I've got a couple of examples on the table here. Now, this one comes from a company called Palmetto State Armory. They sell a number of different firearms and also accessories. Really, it's just a mega store for all things guns. Pretty cool. And they sell their own pistol here called the Dagger. Now, this slide that this pistol came with is specifically machined to accept an optic like this Venom red dot. I can't fit the Razor on here. I really actually can't even fit the Viper on here. The Viper happens to have the same bolt and recoil lug pattern, but not the same footprint, so it won't work very well in here. Then another example I have is a custom machined slide that I actually mailed off to a company to machine for me. This I actually had done a long time ago. The company is called Jaegerworks, and they machined it specifically to accept this Viper red dot. So two optics, same bolt and recoil lug pattern, different footprints, and so they have different machine pockets here. If I ever want to use a different red dot on these slides, well, I can't.
It's not going to happen.
Now let's talk about the gun on the table that I have not yet pointed out. It's kind of an interesting case. Optics ready from the factory, but in some ways it is sort of custom machined to accept only a select few red dots. This particular example is the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus that is optics ready. Glock has one too. It's called the 43X, and there are a few other pistols out there like the Springfield Hellcat, for example, etc., etc. These are smaller subcompact handguns with a small slide to begin with. So really they kind of needed to be custom tailored to accept a smaller red dot like this Vortex Defender CCW red dot in this case. Now, it accepts it not using a plate system. Instead, this red dot is actually directly mounted to the slide itself. So I couldn't mount this Viper red dot or the Razor red dot to it directly. Really, it only fits, at least from Vortex, the Defender CCW, and a few other select red dots on the market. So it's kind of a hybrid of those previous two categories that I talked about. Again, though, just something to be aware of as you look into buying a certain firearm, or maybe you have your eye on a certain red dot. Make sure the compatibility is there, or else you're gonna have extra parts, and trust me, extra parts wind up growing into just more guns. Again, not a bad thing, but get it right the first time. It's just better. One other interesting thing worth mentioning about the Shield Plus here and all of the other subcompact pistols that are kind of in the same boat is that this gun didn't come with a plate system and it didn't come with screws to mount the red dot to the slide. In fact, really all Smith & Wesson and all these other gun companies do is just give you a pocket that is machined to accept the right footprint, bolt pattern, and recoil lug pattern of these smaller red dots like the Defender CCW. Now, a kind company like Vortex includes all of the screws that you would need to mount it up to any of these types of pistols, like the Shield Plus, like the FN509, the SIG P365XL, the Smith & Wesson 2.0, the Glock MOS, the HK-VP9, the Canik TP9 SFX, you get the picture. There's all kinds of different screws because they all require a different size screw, thread pitch, thread depth, etc.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
That's all I got for you, everybody. I hope I made the world of red dot and pistol compatibility a little easier to navigate. And maybe one of these days, optics companies and all pistol companies in the world will all decide on one single standard across the board, same screws, same footprint, bolt pattern, recoil lug pattern, all that stuff. And we won't really have to think about this anymore, but until that day, these are all things that you should be aware of and that you should make sure you're researching before you go out and buy everything so that you know it's all going to marry up just fine. Maybe that same day will also be when your Samsung phone can accept an Apple charger. Can you imagine? I know. My mind's blown. just like I'm sure yours is. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any questions about anything I went over, or if anything I said was weird, raised a question mark in your head, you know, drop a comment below, hit us up on social media. We want to make sure this is as close to a Zero Assumptions video series for those of you who are truly new to guns. We'll see you on the next one. Here we are, as Jimmy tries to find the proper MMP plate for a Viper red dot. Will he find it? Tune in next week.